Hope you guys had a good weekend. We went right back at it today. We scrimmaged on, when did we scrimmage? Friday, and resumed practice yesterday and today. Today was extensive work, extended periods of longer drives, trying to get our guys to play stronger, faster when they're tired. Trying to get more guys in the rotation at different spots, increase our versatility, and really testing our coaches as well, making sure that we're doing a really good job of adapting to our personnel where we can be good, putting them in tough down and distance situations, and making them call it on the spot. So with that being said, questions please.
Mario, in the wake of Jordan's arrest last week, have you talked to the team just in terms of about being safe on the road, responsible, and things like that?
We do that all the time, all year long.
What is Lyle? Is Lyle still going through normal motions with the team while the legal process?
Well, like we said this morning, we're waiting for legal to take its course of action, and we'll decide everything from there.
Now that you had the weekend to just go over Friday night scrimmage, what are some things that maybe didn't stand out at first, but now stood out over the last couple days?
Well, I think it's a team that likes to compete, and whatever work we throw at them, they attack it. I do think that there's plenty of work to be done in the area of execution, of physicality, of pre-snap discipline, post-snap composure. I would say in chasing and finishing, which has always been a really good and strong aspect of our programs, our good teams. So, and I think camp is running its course, and that we're getting more and more of it, but we'd like to see it more in play 68, play 78, play 92 of the scrimmage, as opposed to the early parts. So that's a challenge to the team, making sure that we're gonna go to the edge. That's our job. In a safe manner, we're gonna push them to the edge, and always work to get ourselves a breakthrough. And we're getting closer and closer to getting that, but there's no magic way to get there. We got to work it into existence, and we have to get in really, really good shape. That's probably the biggest challenge right now, is making sure that we are running everywhere, max effort, everything. Chasing the ball, running on and off the field, just the simple fundamentals of a strong culture will naturally help you get in better condition.
How's Luke Nickel performed throughout camp and in the scrimmage, and kind of earning the trust of being able to operate the offense when he gets in?
Luke's gotten better and still needs to get a whole hell of a lot better, but what we've seen so far is what we saw in high school, a guy that can operate and really master a system and has the ability to make every throw. He has a really good pocket presence. He understands the game really well. Just a very natural football player. Gets it, can take off with the ball too, can really run, can extend plays, and just needs reps. Just consistently getting more and more and more reps, and not to sit back and wait. And the same thing for the other quarterbacks. I think the biggest mistake any player can make is wait your turn. You don't wait a turn. You make your opportunity when you're not a starter or when you're not contributing. You have to make that happen every day. If not, you really never get better, and someone within the program or someone incoming will take your spot. I think he understands that now, and you see it in his dailies.
I wanted to ask you about SJ too. Because obviously, size-wise, he's not as big as the other guys, but I want to ask you, what does he bring to the field that allows him to be successful?
He's not the 6'6" guy, but he does have the length of a 6'4", 6'5" guy. Real long, real large wingspan, and extensive arm length, and extremely twitchy and powerful. He is anywhere between 298 and 302, so he does play with a lot of power and leverage. Comes from a program where that's demanded every single day. Natural culture fit, and he performs at a really high level. I think his versatility at both center and guard is really valuable to us, and he's playing really good football. He's blocking him all shapes and sizes. He handles snaps really well. There's nothing we've thrown at him that takes him off of what comes with being versatile, not only at center and at guard, but you saw him last year. He played fullback, he played tight end, he played extra tackle. So really fired up about the guy. He has all the things that you want. And as far as I think his height has been brought to his attention a couple times. We judge what we see on film and on the field.
People look at training camp as being about players, but you mentioned testing the coaches.
Yeah.
What does that involve?
I think it's just as important, quite honestly. I think, I guess I've mentioned, maybe over-mentioned, that these players have been reading press clippings for a long time and hearing all the praise. Well, so have the coaches, and all of us have. And so we got to test ourselves and check ourselves. And that means, you know what, you got to coach with detail. You got to coach with intensity. You got to make sure that every single day you're bringing your absolute best to make your position group better, and understand that, you know what, there are no egos here. As a player or a coach, you're going to get tested. You're going to get pushed. And the best is going to be demanded of you, and that's the only way to get better. When you lose really good players, the coaching tests should have been taking place for the previous couple of years, right? Intensity in coaching from the frontline player to the fourth team guy should never be different. And I don't know if that makes sense, but that's the daily test here, and that's the coaching culture that cannot and will not be compromised. In this industry, football itself isn't overly complicated, but people are. But if people are on the same page and people are willing to just put away egos and get to work for the betterment of one thing and one thing only, the University of Miami and the University of Miami football program, it works. And lucky for us, we have guys that do that. But we're gonna get after each other's butts out there, and it's, we're gonna go to the edge with the coaches too.
Mario, with Omar Thornton, just the physicality he plays with seems to be a great fit for how Corey Huffman runs his defense. Just how have you seen him fit in since he got here in the spring?
Yeah, he does. He brings a physical element that's different. Let me say that's very similar to what we had a year ago in the form of both Keontae Scott and Jacoby Thomas. Really smart football player. Actually played, I believe his first year might have been under Coach Shafley. No, maybe not. I think he was recruited maybe and then got there, and Coach was already gone. But just a very strong DB secondary acumen. So naturally his move over here, having teammates from American heritage, and Xavier Lucas and Damari Brown and Malachi, who probably did the best job recruiting him of all of us. It's been a natural, a very seamless transition, and a guy that brings not only a lot to the table in terms of his physicality, but his personality, his work ethic. He's been awesome. Really can't wait to watch him play.
Mario, how's the O-line progressing? How do you think they did in the scrimmage?
I think solid. I think they had their good moments, and they had their moments where the defense got after them. And we're trying to string together, right, consecutive series, drives, quarters, and then halves and entire games, right? That's how you want your offensive line to play. And I think it's very similar to every year, right, where there's a lot of back and forth. I love the fact that we're playing against a really good defensive line. So the progress is real, but there's a lot of progress still to be made. So excited and ready to work.
And then just how have Jackson Cantwell and Ben Compton kind of progressed through fall?
Large humans that are tough, that are smart, and that work hard. Every time they see a particular exotic third down, pressure is the first time they see it. So I think the fact that they have the willingness to, if they get their tails kicked on a certain play, to buckle up that chin strap a little bit tighter, come back out, and work even harder to get it right, speaks volumes about them. And they're being accelerated. But honestly, the way we practice, it kind of accelerates everybody. They gain more and more confidence every day. We think they're going to be great players, and sooner than later.
Mario, how valuable is it that it's year 2 under Corey Heatherman, the standard, the identity that you guys want to play defensively is set, but in the same breath, teams obviously now know what you want to do. So how do you continue to evolve?
I think anytime you could watch cut-ups on your own team, there's a lot of value in that, and then you could recognize some of the errors and areas of improvement in the form of communication, alignments, seeing the challenges, right? As the year goes on, you find different things where people try to expose you. Being able to collect all that data, have it on film, and show it to your players, and then bring it to life on the field and work it every day, that's invaluable. And I think that's what Coach Heatherman really appreciates, is the fact that, when you 2 and 3 spot all your drills, you have a chance to have everybody get those reps. You didn't have that a year ago. You had to be in one spot, teach the defense, make sure it was right, and stay, I wouldn't say vanilla, but certainly you couldn't evolve and expand at maybe the rate that you are doing it this year. But that being said, we do stick with the basics and the fundamentals until we get them right before we move on. So we don't try to get, become the jacks of all trade. We want to get really good at what we do,
Just a few more. Mario, when you guys lose a guy like Cam and Hayden head into a season, how does it affect the team, or does it affect the team?
I don't think it does. And look, philosophically, you want it to work for everybody. You really, really do. You work endless days and nights so it can work, you know. And then there comes a time where decisions have to be made, and that's just the way it is. It's a process that nothing or nobody gets in the way of being 1-0, and you always do your best for those that don't make it here to help them find opportunities as well. But in terms of, you know, when you make moves that are strictly for the betterment of the team. That's why they are made. So hopefully that encompasses and details the reasons why they're made, and hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, and also the top 10 poll is going to come out again. I know you've addressed this in the past about expectations and things, but just is it a constant message to your team, or what's your reaction at assuming you're going to be a high team?
Well, I think you know what made it easy? I think 12 of the preseason top 25 last year ended up unranked. Is that accurate? Something like that, right? I mean, there's statistical data to last year lifetime, but you got to realize we have these guys for what's the legal limit? Whatever legal limit is, sometimes 3, sometimes 4 hours. When they leave here, man, 20 hours, take away your 6, 7, 8 for sleep, all those hours of everyone just, you know, heaping the praise on and whatnot. So the best way, okay, to approach that, in our opinion, and we don't have all the answers and we don't judge, but every day you battle for their minds, right? That space between their ears is the most important part that we need to affect during training camp. And the best way to affect that is with real deal work, the right type of truth telling and confrontation to make sure that we get the best out of everybody, and not let things slip as it relates to culture, to discipline, to doing things the right way and never coming off of it, even if you don't get the right result. You know, we've had some unbelievable progress over the last 4.5 years. And you know what? It's not always perfect, but you know what? We never come off of it, because that attitude, that approach, that level of intensity and effort will get you the better result more times than not. So we get on it and stay on it. And that place out there, Green Tree Practice Field, okay, that's a real thing. And for us to accomplish what we want to accomplish, the work out there, the discipline out there, the conditioning out there, the physicality, playing with violence on the field, right? Doing all those things, that's what you pack with you when you go to Hard Rock, or when you get on a plane and you go and play wherever you're going to play, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 12, 3, 6, 5, 9, 10, whatever time it is. So that's the way that we combat it. I don't know, again, that's our opinion. And we think it's been valuable for us, but I guess let's go find out, right? That's a long answer to a short question.
I wanted to ask you about the secondary. You've talked quite a bit this camp about the importance of durability, availability, having depth there. And clearly you learned that from the CFP run, right? And I was curious, like, what's the number you feel like you need to have in terms of like bodies in the secondary, and how's the development process of the season help you get to that point?
Oh man, well, you know, I always think of the old school rosters. I could rattle off numbers right now. I said what you want at each position. It's more important to have the right ones and keep the right ones healthy, but you never have enough. I guess that's the best way to answer it. I don't want to pin myself in a corner. Let's call it what it is. If you could play man coverage, you could do a lot of things, right? And if you have guys that can mix it up and understand your scheme really, really well, or you could disguise coverage and you could play zone just as effectively as you can play man, my Lord, you could. Coach Heatherman really has the opportunity to do a lot of things. What we saw last year is the perfect example of why you don't have enough, you know, and that's our gap in durability last year. I mean, that had a trickle-down effect, where the ones behind, you know, they were over-repped and they got banged up too, and then we find ourselves, you know, in a tough position. So I don't know what that number is. I know that we feel strongly that we're getting to a point where several guys can play because they've earned it, not because they're talented, not because they're ranked high, but because they've earned it. So I have not answered your question.
And I said to you now.
I'll answer it with one word: a lot. We need a lot of guys that could run, that are tough. And quite frankly, this is one thing that we really are working on and harping on. You got to be really physical at corner. Your physicality has got to show. You can't allow teams to game plan you and run into the boundary because the boundary corner, they feel they can get after his butt. And I think our corners are getting better at being physical, getting their hands on people, knocking people back. We're approaching where most of those frontline guys are 200-pounders, that can run. And that serves you well in the perimeter game as well, right? When people feel that they can't get the ball and knock you back inside, they spit it out there. And, you eliminate the cat and mouse game, and you can take control of both the line of scrimmage and the perimeter.